and welcome. Thank you for watching or listening to this candidate forum. This is one of several hour-long conversations between candidates running for seats on the KPFA local board. My name is Vita Flores, and I'm with the League of Women Voters. I'm also here with Ann Laser from the League of Women Voters, who will be our timekeeper today. KPFA is a listener-sponsored radio station, one of 5 stations of the Pacifica Network, the country's first and only independent national radio network. The views expressed during this program are those of the candidates and not KPFA. All viable candidates have been invited to participate in these discussions. Our format today is that after each candidate introduces themselves, we will address one question to each candidate for 2 minutes, and then let each of the remaining candidates comment for 30 seconds. They can comment directly on the question, or they can ask the candidate who answered the question a direct question, at which time the candidate has 1 minute to answer that question. This forum is comprised of 2 staff candidates who are running for the board, Ann Garrison and Steve Zeltzer. We'll start with a 15-second opening statement with Ann Garrison.
Thank you. I've been producing KPFA Radio News on Saturdays for about 10 years. I also contribute from time to time to longer format shows, including Flashpoints, Project Censored, and Workweek Radio. I also produce some radio for a show on WBAI, Afrobeat Radio, which is on Wednesday nights on WBAI. I'm more of a...
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Zeltzer.
Yes, I've been programming at KPFA since 1995. I produced documentaries, labor video documentaries, and I've been producing Workweek Radio about the issues of working people and the working class struggles. I've also been involved with the apprentices and doing live programming at KPFA.
Thank you very much. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the current KPFA programming?
Well, I think that there's some very good programs, and we have a lot of talented producers. I think that one of the things that I want to see more in community programming is more community programs on KPFA. And we can do that by having 2 digital channels going from analog to digital. Also, I am supporting Pacifica having a live national channel with programming of the shows, the best shows around the country on that, and programming national events. I think that's very important. That would be a way of getting a bigger audience, which is critical for the survival of KPFA and Pacifica.
Fantastic. And now you have 30 seconds to respond or ask a question.
Hey, Steve, how do you feel about the programming changes made this year at KPFA?
Well,
We've got 1 minute to answer.
Okay. There's some systemic problems. The program director, for example, although we're required on the board, I'm a member of the local station board, to evaluate the program director, has never shown up. We sent a letter. He's never come to a local station board. There has to be some process where you know what's going to happen to a program before it happens. That hasn't happened at KPFA, unfortunately. There's a unilateral management style, which I don't agree with. There's never been a staff meeting, a regular staff meeting held at KPFA, so there's no communication, interactive communication back and forth between the staff as a whole and management. That has to happen, I think, to have a more successful relationship.
Thank you. Ms. Garrison, here's your 2-minute question.
Okay.
What makes KPFA Pacifica unique when compared to other listener-supported media?
I'm trying to think about what other listener-supported media there is. NPR and PBS are both listener-supported, but they're also corporate-supported. Pacifica is not corporate-supported and therefore not compromised. At least that's the goal. And so what's the difference? So as a result, Pacifica can tend more to the left wing. I would say I'm on the left wing of the programming staff and the listeners. And so let's see, there's particular coverage, like coverage of Palestine, which would never be on any of the other combination corporate and listener-sponsored stations. I would say particularly anti-war programming. And I feel that there should be very strong anti-war programming.
You've still got a little time.
I've still got a little time. Okay. There are many other programs, I'd say, that are unique to KPFA that would probably not be on combination corporate listener-sponsored stations. One is Steve's show, Workweek Radio, which is a very radical labor show. Another is Pushing Limits, which is a show about disabled people pushing beyond the limits of their disability. This is one of the most unique shows on KPFA, and it doesn't have a really large audience. It doesn't bring in a lot of money, but it's an important show.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Zeltzer, would you like to comment or ask Ann a question?
Well, I would comment. I think KPFA, a lot of it has become strip programming. And I think that's a problem when you have the same voices on over and over again. And what do you think about the idea of strip programming? And also, what do you think about programs like that are on KALW, which are already on the radio, being put on KPFA when they're already available to the listeners?
Is this a direct question?
Yes.
Okay, you've got 1 minute to respond.
I think some strip programming is very good. I like the Ralph Nader Hour, and I liked a show called Counterspin, which was a media critique. And that show was displaced for a replay of, let's see, what's it called? Your Call, a show that's on KALW. And not only is this easy to listen to in the Bay Area on another station, it's also a show, a call-in show. And so when people hear, would you call in now to KPFA, they get confused and try to call. But it was taped when people were calling in on KALW. Counterspin was an edgy media critique show, and I really cannot understand why it was taken off the air for a replay of Your Call.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zeltzer, this 2-minute question is for you. What do you think should be the role of the unpaid staff in the station, and what, if anything, would you change about the status quo?
Well, I think the unpaid staff, who do the majority of programming at KPFA, should have a union and should be represented. Unfortunately, the union opposed that. The CWA opposed that. I'm a member of the CWA freelance unit of the newspaper guild, but they opposed it, so there's no union representing the unpaid staff, as a result of which we don't have a grievance procedure that really works like a contract that the paid staff has. And also, we are not consulted. There's never been, since in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been no staff meetings, regular staff meetings. I think every station should have regular staff meetings where the manager, the program director, they can report to the staff, paid and unpaid, and say what their issues are, what their concerns are, so there can be an interchange. We don't have that. As a result of which there have been programming changes just announced, not only to us, but to the station board, without any kind of why, what, whatever. And that's, listeners have concerns and the staff have concerns.
Mm-hmm. What do you think could be done to create more respect for the unpaid staff?
Well, I think there should.
1 minute, please.
Yeah, I think there should be a program council so it has more power to be in part of the programming decisions. Also, I think that the station board, if I'm reelected, should require the station manager to have regular staff meetings. The Maxey, the previous executive director, said there should be at least 4 a year, and I agree with Maxey. There should be 4 staff meetings, at least a year, where all the staff can come together and have a discussion, interchange about issues that they're concerned about. I mean, private meetings is not enough with management to deal with the issues that we face.
Thank you. Ms. Garrison, this next question is for you. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the existing models of fundraising at KPFA Pacifica? And do you have alternative fundraising ideas and models? 2 minutes, please.
Well, I think most of the fundraising needs to be done on the air as it is. Increasing the audience by offering unusual programming and also advertising the existence of the station would be likely to increase the support during online fund drives. I am opposed to trying to make the station board a fundraising board, which has sometimes been suggested. Fundraising boards at nonprofits are typically wealthy people who are expected to give or to go and ask their wealthy friends to give as well. That's not what KPFA is about.
Thank you. Would you like to respond in 30
Yeah,
seconds?
I think part of the problem is KPFA, despite its strengths, is not a multimedia platform. And with young people, the age of the audience of KPFA are seniors, in large part. Young people are not paying attention to KPFA. We have to change that. We have to have cameras in the studios. If you want to be live, you can be live on a camera. We have to be covering rallies like the anti-Nazi rally live, have interviews with people. May Day we covered live. We need national days or regional days on education, on immigration. We could have a national day of programming at KPFA and Pacifica on immigration, interviewing people all over the country, making an exciting vehicle to get the voices out nationally of what's happening. That's the potential of KPFA and Pacifica, which I'd like to support the development of.
Thank you very much. We'll have one more question for Mr. Garrison. Pardon me, Mr. Zeltzer.
Yes.
Mr. Zeltzer.
Mr. Zeltzer, Mr. Garrison.
They
Okay.
switched
Okay, that's okay.
my
No problem.
positions.
It confused everything. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Well, we're non-binary, you know, that's the
okay.
craze now.
How are programming decisions, removal of programs, addition of new programs, schedule modifications, and more currently made in your opinion? Not yet. What criteria should be used to make programming decisions, determine what new programs are selected, what programs get eliminated, and how present programming might be changed?
I would say there's cronyism at KPFA. The programs are brought on not by a democratic process, but by friends, cronies. There's unilateral decision on programming. We've never been consulted. I've never been consulted about new programming, about old programming, anything. There was a survey that was recently taken place to the members. We need to see the result of the survey, a poll of what the members want to see. I know that the CAB, Community Access Board, did a survey. They said in the survey, a large number of the people said they wanted to be multimedia. They wanted to have more live programming. That has not been reflected in what's coming out of KPFA. There are many struggles and battles, issues going on in the Bay Area that we can cover live. We can make it exciting, and we can be part of the community and labor. That's what I want to see, and that will actually help us financially. If we're seeing, like in these teacher strikes, they're taking charge. I mean, as far as interviewing people, getting involved in their struggles, this station is relevant. That's what we have to become.
Okay, Steve, there were at least 4 programs summarily canceled this year without any kind of community process. They were Twitwit Radio, Guns and Butter, Discreet Music. Discreet Music was an avant-garde music show on from 10 to 12, from 10 to 12 on Sunday nights. And it played music you weren't going to hear anywhere else. And it was replaced with a Motown dance party. I think there are plenty of other stations you could hear that on. But actually, Steve, I was going to ask you a question. What kind of community process do you think should have gone on?
Well, I think there should be a program council, number one, but also I think that there has to be a process where shows are evaluated and they say, we don't like this is a problem, that's a problem. There is no process that I know about to determine whether or not a show should be brought on or a show should raise issues about the show. So that is part of the responsibility of management, to have a process to examine what's going on. These shows that were removed, they said that they were justified, but there was no consultation with the board about it. They were just unilaterally moved. That's a bad corporate type method of operation, and I don't agree with that method.
Okay, perfect timing. Before we have our closing statement, I'll just let listeners know that ballots will be sent to all KPFA members on August the 15th and need to be returned by October the 15th. Please visit elections.pacifica.org for more information. Now, before we have our closing statement, I wanted to let you know that we'd like to thank you for joining us today. You can find more information on the website, just like I said, elections.pacifica.org. Okay, now our closing statement will begin with Ms. Garrison for 1 minute.
Thank you. Okay. I'd like to say that I actually write a lot more than I produce radio. I write for the San Francisco Bayview, Black Agenda Report, Counterpunch, Consortium News, and an African publication called Pambazuka News. And I have a number of times written about Pacifica. One of the most popular pieces that I wrote about Pacifica in the past year was titled, "We Love the CIA, or How the Left Lost Its Mind." This is critique of the way that the station, the way that the station and very much of the rest of the country went insane after Trump was elected. And swung to the right, even to the point of lauding the CIA and the FBI. I also do not think the network should be broken up. Okay? Most important things, we need a program council, and the Pacifica Network should not be broken up because it's a lifeline to grassroots radio all over the country.
Thank you very much. 1 minute.
Well, I agree with Ann. I was against bankruptcy, and this other slate that's running, United for Community Radio, actually voted unanimously for bankruptcy, which would have put a judge in charge of KPFA and Pacifica. And actually were able to solve some of the financial problems as a result of not going into bankruptcy, getting a CFO firm. But what we have to do is, if we're going to transform ourselves, we owe $4 million. We have to develop a multimedia platform. We have to become more lively and relevant to people. We have to do live programming. And we have to start covering these struggles and issues facing millions of working people in the United States. This is a very radical time, and it's time that KPFA and Pacifica stand up and really be a voice for the mass of people in this country and around the world. And I think that that's something we can do with our platform. International programming. We can have programming from around the world on a digital channel. We can have a Pacifica channel that has the best of the Pacifica stations. We can have producers linked up around the country working together on a day of programming for immigrants, on a day of programming on May Day, on women. So let's use our talents nationally in this network and the affiliates to start developing new programs, new national days of programming on a Pacifica web channel, and start to have that reflected in the stations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us today in our conversation. This has been 2 staff candidates who are running for a board seat. On behalf of Ann Laser, our timekeeper, and myself, Vita Flores from the League of Women Voters, thank you for joining our conversation, and find more information on elections.pacifica.org. Thank you and have a good day.